Do you have a calling? Do you lie awake at night wishing that you could share some truth with others that could make the world a better place? If you do, you probably also tell yourself 1,000 reasons why you can't, like, it's too expensive to start a podcast, I don't have any equipment, I don't think I could make any money doing it. Now, all those excuses are gone. With Anchor.fm, you can record, edit, master, and distribute your podcast all from one simple and easy-to-use mobile app. Here at Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly, we looked at many other expensive paid services to work with, and after an extensive amount of research, we decided that Anchor was still the best service for us. Here's why. It's completely free. The only equipment that you need is your phone or a computer. You can always record on professional equipment as well, and simply upload it to the website. Anchor will distribute it on every major podcast service, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. Most importantly, Anchor will find you sponsors, and you can start getting paid right away. Don't tell yourself that you're not important enough. With Anchor, you can start right now. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Hello, I'm Dick.
And I'm Jay.
And this is Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly.
This show where we select writing prompts, spend 4 hours writing, read our stories at first glance, and then we talk about it. If you like Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you hear our show.
So, Jay, we've been experimenting a lot with different ways of randomly selecting and narrowing our own writing prompts.
Absolutely, and I find that's been pretty fun and interesting.
Well, I have an idea, and I really want to mix it up. I have my lucky coin, and I think it's time to have another coin toss episode.
Another coin toss episode? But wait, I thought we were finding new ways, not just, drudging up old ways. I mean, we're only on episode 11. How, really? Are we going to sit here and just start retrotting old ground?
Well, if you remember correctly, the coin toss episode was we decided to flip a coin and have a 50-50% chance whether or not we would read or write about our own writing prompts that we've selected, or if we write each other's writing prompts.
Okay, but let's do this. Instead, let's flip right now.
Oh. And decide who's going to pick while we're making the decision. I don't know if I trust you, Jay.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to find out.
Well, it's episode 11. Let's give it a shot. So, should we call this the pre-coin flip episode?
Let's call it Coin Flip 2.0.
There we go. All right, here we go. In my plethora of quarters in my studio here that I have a new special lucky quarter. The head side will be George Washington, but the tails side is going to be Nebraska. It's a 2015 state coin, and it says Homestead on it. And if you look at it, it's got wheat, a water fountain, and a log cabin.
You see, everyone thinks that Dick is just this collector of quarters. I know that it's really just for laundry day, right?
It's just for laundry. Actually, it was back when I was in my college days, and I still have all the quarters I saved up for laundry. All right.
Oh my gosh!
So here we go. Let's get this coin flip ready to go. So heads will be we still write our own stories. Tails, or the homestead, is going to mean that we're going to pick each other's writing prompts. And drum roll, please. Coin goes up, it flips over, and it is tails. Who would have thought of that? So I guess we're going to be picking each other's writing prompts.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be phenomenal.
All right. So let's try to keep it as normal as we normally would do, except I will admit, our last week's episode, we were doing a character type writing style. Character writing prompts instead of story writing prompts. And I'm just going to propose this. What if we still use the random job generator?
The random job generator?
So we can still select each other's year, We can select each other's genre we're going to write about. We can select 3 objects as well, but I also want to add the job generator. What do you think about that?
Why not? Why not?
Just to leave it less up to chance, I think.
Oh, but come on, that's the fun
more
of it.
Up to chance and
don't you trust
that
me,
we're
Dick?
Intentionally trying to mess each other up.
Don't you trust me, Dick?
No, I don't.
Well, you should. Now that I know that you don't trust me, this is going to be a great episode.
So this is going to be like a mutually assured destruction. So if we escalate it too far, it's who blinks first. Then the second person is going to totally mess it up.
Yeah, except, no. By the way, no. I'm just going to, Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll play it correctly. Maybe I won't. All right, one second. Let me find this. I've spent so much time, I guess, talking smack in this first half that I totally forgot to actually, check for the occupation generator, which here it is. I have it. All right. So, who shall go first?
Let's start with year.
Okay.
And I will pick year for you.
You're going to pick year for me. Okay.
So what are our 3 options here?
7, 4, 2, 5.
7, 4, 2, 5 in the distant future. Okay. What other options do we have?
One second. Let me just go ahead and...
The second option is 2064. That sounds like it's going to be the one I'm going to pick.
Okay. So not that far into the future. One of these days, we should pick the year 2525, just for funsies in an episode.
For the song. If people aren't following the references, in the year 2525.
Okay, that's it. We don't want it. No copyright. No copyright issues.
That was less than 10 seconds. It's fair use. And the third option is 4,957. We're definitely going to go with 2060. What was that? 2067?
2064.
2064. I like that.
So do I pick your numbers now, or should we just go down the line?
Let me draw these numbers and then you decide which is which.
5730 is your first number.
Okay, that's a good year. I can write something with that year.
By the way, are we still on your moratorium for space westerns?
I think I've got one more. This might be the last, second to last episode. So maybe next week I can not do a space western. Might be able to do a space western next.
Okay, I'm trying to get numbers that are out of the 5,000s.
You know what?
Here we go.
You're not allowed to re-roll. You should just go with the numbers.
Okay, so 4734. My bad on that one. I was trying to give you a larger spread.
Okay, 4734.
Yeah.
He's trying to give himself a wider spread. I see what's going on, Jay.
Oh, you think I'm being nicer?
No, I think you're being meaner. You want to pick a specific date, so you keep re-rolling. And what's the third one?
7399. You're getting 7399.
Which year are you going to give me?
7399.
Oh, that's so far in the future.
I know.
As a matter of fact, that's about as far into the future as the pyramids were in the past. Is that true? Not quite. Not quite.
Is that here at Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly, we merely read facts that we think are facts, and we just say, wait, is that true?
Yeah, probably, maybe.
Not quite. Yes.
When were the pyramids built? Around 5,000 BCE?
Something like that. So, I mean, you're not, I guess, too far off. So, yeah. And what's a couple hundred years when you're talking about, several thousand? So, sorry, sipping my coffee here. All right. Now, genre generator.
I am so excited.
You pick first.
You hit the button and no rerolls.
That's true.
So, Jay has 3 options. A dark comedy or a black comedy. And I really like his dark comedies, so I might do that one. Second option is a fantasy. And I might just pick that just to mess with him. And then the third option is a western. I like dark comedy. Let's go with dark comedy.
Okay. All right. I was kind of hoping for fantasy, but that's fine.
Fantasy in 2064.
Yep.
I want to laugh today. I think this would. I'm going to force you to be funny, even if you're not in the mood.
Fair enough. All right, now I get to choose yours.
I hope all three options are all westerns. Okay, you're laughing.
Honestly, yeah. Okay, so the first one is realistic fiction.
Okay. I like realistic fiction.
Realistic fiction for the year 7399 would be kind of tough.
Well, I mean, like, whatever, you have, it has to seem, like, balanced and fair.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. Let me see. Werewolf as a genre.
Space werewolves.
I mean, you did well with Space Bees. So, and then Empire Western. You know what? I trust you on this one, wanting to have the moratorium on Westerns, so
Aww.
I'm going to abide by that.
Aw.
You know what? Space werewolves, man, that's you.
Space werewolves. Geez, just the way I wanted to spend my afternoon. $73.99. So maybe the year 7,400 is supposed to be really an important year.
Maybe. Yeah. So space werewolves. There you go, buddy.
You're gonna get it. So, what are we gonna do?
Roll 4, pick 3.
Draw
Sound
4,
good?
pick 3.
Draw 4, pick 3.
Draw 6, pick 3. Because then we have a choice.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, never mind. That's right. Because I forgot that this is the episode where we're supposed to be making it fun and difficult for each other.
Well, I wasn't
All right.
trying to, but just you wait. All right, let's see. So my 6 objects I get to pick from: toy shopping carts, necklaces of various styles,
Okay.
a zipper, dental protective beauty instrument.
All right. What does that even mean?
Okay, so this is what you're going to do. You are totally going to have to write a story, a dark comedy about a zipper, dental protective beauty instruments,
Okay.
and a Kindle e-reader. This episode is not sponsored by Amazon or is no way affiliated.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with toy shopping carts.
I was thinking about it, but that's just so annoying, I'm not going to do it.
All right, but just so we're clear, what is so like a mouth guard? Are we talking about for dental protective?
Like a very sexy mouth guard.
There might be people who, okay, fine.
Like if you have a bite guard when you're going to sleep. It'll help you. Either that or like what are they called? The whitening strips.
Yeah, or whitening. Okay, yeah, because if I can do that, that'll be fine.
Or those
That'll be
infrared
fine.
ones that'll shine lasers at your teeth, and they whiten your teeth. I don't know.
Okay, it's a beauty instrument. So in other words, it's not like a drill.
Oh, it's not. No.
Not a dentist drill. Okay, so zipper.
Dental protractor? What did you write?
Dental protector beauty instrument. Protective. Dental protective beauty instrument. That's what it says here.
Okay.
And that's what it says on the thing.
All right.
And the last one was, Kindle e-reader.
Where you may or may not be able to find the story.
E. So, all right.
Now that you've already ruined my afternoon, let's see how much more you're going to destroy it.
All right. Are you ready for this? So
I'm ready.
So the 6 are frosted glass, glasses on books,
Did you shuffle these?
cute plush toys, exquisite jades, and mobile phone taking photos. Now, remember, it's the year 7399. So, we're going to do exquisite jades, and the next one we're going to do is mobile phone taking photos, because again, it's the year 7399.
Okay.
And we're going to do glasses on books, because it's the year 7399.
Glasses on books. All right. I can work with those at least.
Well, I'll say I gave you two difficult ones, and then I gave you one that's like, if I'm gonna make it so much of a pain with the two. I gotta give you at least one like good one.
Why, thank you for your grave kindness.
Oh, what was the thing saying? It was like mobile phone
Exquisite
taking
jade.
photos.
And mobile phones taking pictures.
Photos, exquisite jade. Yeah, because obviously the easier one to incorporate in a story in $73.99 is going to be glasses on books. So,
well, you could find jade. I'm not worried about that. But mobile phones taking pictures
and glasses on books. In other words, you just basically called out the real one that I was giving you that was easy.
Brother.
The joke
All right,
being,
so the last element is going to be a job or occupation. That it might not have to be of the lead character, but has to be featured in one of the main characters.
Yes. All right.
We'll do it the same way as last week. We'll just take the first one or re-roll, and I'm going to pick one for you. So let's just recap what we have for you right now.
Okay.
So we have the items, dental protector, beauty instrument, a zipper, a Kindle e-reader, but you're writing a dark comedy in the year 2064, and that's what we're doing.
Yes.
And let's see what the occupation that hopefully will be the center is. And oh my word, I love it. The Coast Guard.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
A dark comedy about the Coast Guard in 2064. I like it. It's possible. It's very doable.
Yeah. All right, so let's see what yours is. Barber. I like it.
Okay. A barber. Does that also count as a fur stylist?
I mean, that would be, well, yeah, sure, why not?
Fur stylist. I like it.
Well, isn't there a song about werewolves, and doesn't it actually involve the person getting a haircut?
Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
Huh. IU. Wow, today's, I guess, going to be the musical reference episode. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So we've got all of our events picked out. So we're going to start the clock right now, and we're going to write for 4 hours, and we're going to see everybody in just a little bit.
All right, y'all. Hang on tight. This is going to be a fun one.
Hello, and welcome back to Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly. I am Dick.
And I'm Jay.
And we just finished writing for 4 hours. It was a really good writing time for me. I actually got a lot of stuff in, and I'm really excited. As a little bit of a reminder, this week our little theme that we did is we actually picked our writing prompts for each other, which I'm really happy with the way that turned out. But we're still waiting for a couple audience members. If you actually have this burning desire to hear some science fiction stories written about a certain subject, certain character time frame, go ahead and comment on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave us a comment on our website at anchor.fm/BSFRP.
That's right. And since I went second this past time, I go first this time. So I'm just going to call you out a little bit.
What are you calling me out on?
So Dick's story is called Devil Dogs, and there's this thing called a pronunciation guide for some of these words. And I'm just going to tell you right now, no. You just have to, you're just going to have to deal with how I decide to pronounce them.
I'd just like to say this for all of our listeners. How many episodes has it been when Jay hasn't jumped down my throat for something that I thought was constructive? The pronunciation guide, I think, would be very helpful because it's going to come back a bunch.
Yes, but this is Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly. You're trying to give pretext to pronouncing things well.
Well, what you don't realize is the pronunciation guide is just as difficult to understand as the spelling of the word.
Well, I guess we'll just have to, find out. So, without further ado, Dick's story for the week, Devil Dogs. Hank sat in his barber's chair, reading a very old hard copy of On War by Karl von Clausewitz. It was a bright and reflective as the day it was reprinted in CE 6399, almost 1,000 years ago. No one ever printed information on physical objects anymore, but Hank was the epitome of old school. When his eyes started failing in his 220s, he refused implants and decided to use ancient silicone optical instruments held together on wire frames. This allowed him to see close in, as he had a large collection of these old books for people to look through in his shop, as well as a modern 3D display chirping something about a Cathedral Alliance building a military transport base in the demilitarized zone adjacent to the human border. The bell dinged and a young man walked in. "Well, hello," Hank piped up. "Number 2 Fade, regulation," the man said, looking very messy. He was 7'9" and looked like he could cut grass with his biceps, but he had hair down to his elbows. Hank chuckled. "Looks like you had a long night. Have a seat, Boot. I'll clean you up." Hank took off his glasses and set them on the book he was reading. The stranger tilted his head in confusion. Hank motioned to the chair and he pulled up his sleeve. The bottom of the tattoo stuck out. "Nostros non lupus inimicos," or loosely translated to, "Our men were not enemies of the wolf." The young man smiled and jumped into the chair. "How long were you a devil dog, old-timer?" 200 years, Hank replied, as he brought out the sonic clippers. The man lit up. "That means you were in all the way back during the Zionid dispute." Hank cocked his head. "Boot, you are really showing your age. Everything is a dispute. Revisionists like to smooth over history, especially now that the Zionid are our allies. But listen to me. That was not some dispute about territorial claims or saber rattling. We were in it for the preservation of the species. Why else did so many lasting changes come out of that dispute?" The young man lit up. "I have so many questions. When did you join up?" The barber set down his clippers and took a seat. "Well, kid, the beginning. That's when. I was a teenager on Sunbeam Colony, deep in space, in the Horsehead Nebula. I remember that day very clearly. Back then, FTL could only be done in short hops, and if you missed your destination, well, good luck getting close to a planet ever again. Sunbeam was a hub for the expansion out into the Orion sector. Ship crews would take a 3-day leave, and we met people from all over the galaxy. It was a very easy place to live, and every visitor wanted to buy things. Even as a teen that went to school full-time, we could make lots of money selling junk to colonists that traveled through. My senior year, when I was walking between classes, we noticed something in the sky. It looked like a comet, but it was traveling way too fast. As it approached the planet, it broke up, and it was only then that we figured out it was a Xenod attack fleet. The pieces that broke apart were landing craft filled with xenoids. We didn't know what they were at first. Quadrupeds, lots of fur, and long tails. But they carried heavy projectile weapons, and they opened up on the entire city. Our high school was near a spaceport, so we crawled into sanitation access corridor and that ran under the street and ran into the dark all the way to the port. The biggest weapons we had on the colony were low-yield laser rifles from the Atmugurd and police forces, but their fur seemed to reflect all of the energy weapons, and there was no way to put up a fight. When we crawled out of the corridor, we were able to hop on a loading transport. It was nearly empty, so they let us on without problem. The pilot was a former Space Force stick twitcher, so he was able to fly 10 feet off the ground till we got out of the city limits and exited Atmo on the far side of the moon. There were ships being shot down left and right, flying low, cut down on the chances of one of the Xenoids being able to target our engines. We flew straight to Earth with the warning. On Earth, no one believed us, even after bringing back attack footage of the Xenoid atrocities. I didn't say goodbye to my parents or my sister. I decided then I was going to join the Marines. The young, eager Marine was listening to the story with bated breath. "Did you volunteer as a lycanthrope when you went in?" Hank laughed. "Not at all. Not a single neuron fired with that thought. I was mechanized infantry. Did boot camp and A school in an expedited 4 months, and then they sent my unit out. The Corps knew that a war was coming, even if the politicians were trying a peaceful compromise. We got stationed to the Butterfly Nebula defensive zone and waited. Sure enough, the Xenoids hit 3 colonies hard. We couldn't defend all 3, so we had to pick Station 39A8N. It was the largest and most defensible because it was built into the core of the remains of a planet that was split in half from a meteor impact 1 billion years ago. Many colonists from the other 2 colonies ignored the evacuation orders, and they were destroyed early in the attack. The Battle of 39A8N lasted 2 months. Our scientists were able to reverse engineer the fur additive that was able to absorb energy weapons, and our equipment was designed to absorb the kinetic energy from the projectiles. This was not a stalemate, however, because the first day both sides realized the only way to defeat each other's defense was with a physical blade. The battle that was waged was a 2-month-long wrestling match that left plenty of dead on both sides. We both received reinforcements, but it was clear that it was a stalemate, and the Xenoid retreated. I was so badly injured in the last stand that I was taken back to Earth for medical care. It is hard to describe the Xenoid claw injury. They had an uncanny strength with their upper body when it came to manipulating small objects. They had small limbs, but they were very fast and very powerful. They would never attack the center of your armor, but they would attack a leg or your sword arm. Once they latched, they would begin ripping through the titanium or the C60 carbon filament like it was a pistachio shell. I lost many suits of armor, but I was always able to kill them before they punctured the suit. That final attack was a swarm from every direction. I had 5 on me, and they were able to claw into my arms and legs. Back on Earth, they were able to clone my replacement limbs, but they were merely cosmetic. I could barely even walk on them. I was ready to get put out to pasture, but I know the rate of the Xenoid were coming, that they were going to overrun every single outpost and planet until there was no humanity left. You have to remember, they didn't take prisoners. They killed every single living thing in the colony. You don't reason with that. You don't negotiate. It is kill or be killed. That's when I decided to volunteer for the Advanced Genetic Research for Military Application Facility. The young Marine lit up. You mean you were one of the first Marines to come out of Agramath? That must be the picture of it over there. The Marine pointed to a wall of photographs, and Hank shook his head. That is the famous picture of the 1 Marine Expeditionary Force retaking Chongqing in 2024. It was a picture of 3 schoolgirls taking a selfie with a grumpy old gunny who seemed to be smiling through his scowl. Actually, Agramath looked like that back then. Hank pointed to a picture of a large steel building on the far wall. I wasn't one of the first troops, but they waited until test run 4 before they gave me the serum. The young Marine looked nervously at Hank. Do you remember your first transition? Hank kept a firm smirk on his face, but his eyes weren't smiling. Yeah, you always remember your first time. The serum had 2 weeks to run its course. Then they took us out on a bivouac, and we were told to take off our shirts and stand outside under the full moon. You see, back then, they tried to turn everything into a ritual so you would respect it more. The ancient serum mixed with the genetic modifiers that the researchers added made the transition much more painful than you kids have these days. I felt my entire body feel like it caught on fire. Then every disc in my back shattered. The pain was far worse than anything I had ever encountered in combat. That says a lot. When we came back into our normal selves, I remember that we were all covered in blood, but we had no idea whose. Our officer said we did a good job, and that was the second hardest experience of my life. The young Marine looked at Hank and asked, what was harder? Hank said, the next day, we put on our magnesium and silicon dioxide personal lamp, to simulate the full moon. Transitioning then was far worse, because you remember that the pain was real and not a bad memory, and you realize that you are going to feel this for the rest of your life. The young Marine spoke up. Were you involved in the first lycanthrope landfall of the Xenoid Prime? Hank picked up his glasses and started cleaning them with a rag. Yes, and I still have nightmares from that very from that every so often. The young man stood up. Nightmares? You can't remember anything that happens when you're in lycanthrope, right? Well, Hank sighed. We were able to skip rock in. Back then, sensors were not good, so each of the 12 landing ships dropped out of light speed and jumped back in, leading up to the planet several times. The effect was that by the time light got to the planet, it looked like 10,000 ships were going to drop in on the planet instead of 12. They know now to target the lead ships, but they didn't know then. We were strapped in the cargo bay in our baggy leotards that made us look like ancient luchadors. Those Navy girls really liked that uniform because it was so ridiculous. But anyway, they would hit us with the magnesium silicon dioxide light, drop us out of the ship, and leave the planet before the Xenoid realized it was an illusion. I remember winking at a cute petty officer as she turned on the spotlight, and then 5 days later I was in the burned remains of a domicile of the Yunok-Ziak province, staring eye to eye with a terrified Xenoid mother and 7 children, all huddled in a corner. I was covered in so much gore, it was unrecognizable. We were told that for 5 days straight, my unit walked through 3 provinces, killing thousands of creatures a day. I spared this mother and 7 kids. I don't know why. I must have killed many, many more without hesitation. They were still terrified, so I looked down into my hands and I saw a small bag. Inside that bag was a couple of pieces of exquisitely carved jade figurines. In hindsight, they were pretty worthless on Earth, but they must have been this family's life savings. That's when a realization sank in. If I was just some mindless wolf, I would not have thought twice about continuing to kill. Somehow this stopped me in my tracks, and even though I didn't remember the event, I know that there was a part of me that was aware while in the wolf. The Xenoid surrendered that day, so Command turned off the light, and that is what brought me back. But every day I always wonder, I killed so many people, and they told me that it would not be me, it would be a primordial predator that didn't have higher level reasoning. But what if I am still me as the wolf, choosing to commit those atrocities? If that is the case, what does it say about me that I spared lives just for some jade? Made me feel like I accepted a bribe or something. But the Xenoid looked different to me then, huddled in the corner, shaking. Not bloodthirsty monsters, but kind of like ancient Earth otters. Hank put his clippers down again. You're all done, Marine. You look as good as new. The young Marine looked up at Hank. When did you retire? Hank grinned. Yeah, I tried to retire after that. Married a girl. Even. But it didn't last. I re-enlisted. You take pills to suppress the wolf, but even if you don't remember being the wolf, he is always going to be a part of you. And that will never go away, no matter how hard you try. The Marine corrected. No, I mean, when did you leave the Corps for the last time? Hank cleaned his calm and laughed out loud. If I was out, why do you think I would spend a single second here in Aldergrove, British Columbia, outside the Agramaf headquarters? The young Marine looked shocked, as if he didn't put 2 and 2 together. Just then, both of their implants beeped and a voice could be heard to both of them. General quarters, spacebound in 15 minutes. Hank put down his cloth. Well, Boot, looks like we're going to call the Cathediller Alliance's bluff. The young Marine looked at Hank's implant and let out a loud, "Oorah!" Just then, Hank's implant chirped, Sergeant Major, please report to the General's office. Hank put his book into his pocket, put his glasses back on, turned out the lights, and flipped on the sign to close on his barbershop window. Hank pressed the comm implant on the side of his neck. It chirped, and Hank responded with curt, "Err." The young Marine stopped Hank. Sir, why are you a barber in your free time? Hank winked. Do you think you would ever chat with me in uniform? All right. Part Starship Troopers, part... Oh, gosh.
I wasn't going Starship Troopers. I mean, like, it's space...
I mean, not really,
Space Wars,
but,
you know, like military space, but yeah.
All mechanized. and all that sort of stuff. I wasn't, part
Okay.
that, part Halo, part...
I guess there's a little bit of a Halo. Now, I'll admit, this is going to be a very difficult thing for me to say. I actually never played any of the Halo video games.
Oh, that's all right. I'm not even talking about that per se. I'm just saying that there is, it has a nice feel to it. The story does. And the fact that, by the way, they're like, like hundreds of years old is great. I do enjoy that.
Well, I mean, you're thinking about the seventh. There's a couple reasons I wrote it the way that I did, because I was thinking the seventh, the seventh millennia. That's very far out. So,
Yeah.
civilization's going to ebb and flow. But at this point, I'm just like, I don't want to explain too much backstory. Humanity is everywhere, and there are other things out there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep something that would be, hold some continuity. So my big question is how am I going to write an actual science fiction werewolf story? And that's kind of where I ended up, because I wanted to have, maybe there's a serum that was very similar to werewolves, and that's where it came from. That, and I was just thinking, Devil Dog. There you go.
Oh, yeah. No, I got you. Yeah. No, I got you. And no, I mean, it was a good story. I mean, I'm not, what is it? I'm not relating it to those things as some kind of like bash. I just was like, oh, okay, I kind of like it.
Or derivative.
Like the whole, not really, but I mean, maybe the book. No, I liked it. It was pretty good. So we'll go ahead and we'll save the rest of our discussion of that.
Absolutely. Until after I read your story. I'm looking forward to that. So
yes.
Let me make sure I've got the font the right size for my consuming pleasure. Perfect. I like the way that it is. All right. This is Jay's story this week. It is entitled Fly to the Rescue. Ladies and gentlemen, begun Captain Stewart, addressing journalists and a camera crew. The USCG rescue cruiser Fly has become the hallmark of a paradigm shift in the duties of our mission. This is the first new ship created in the 34 years since the United States, in her infinite wisdom, moved the Coast Guard from the Department of Homeland Security to our new administrative home, the Department of the Interior, in 2030. The executive officer, Hugh Century, tried not to blush as Captain Stewart continued. Under increasing pressure to prove our relevance, we have rebranded our mission as one of conservation and rescue. The Fly has been designed to do just that. Our twin nuclear reactors are enough power to our systems as we can leap into this new technological age. A voice from the small group of reporters interjected. Captain Stewart, how does the inclusion of 2 old nuclear reactors borrowed from the old Nimitz-class carriers comport with the U.S. Coast Guard's new mission of conservation? You would have to take that question to the acting chief of the Coast Guard Rescue Operations under the Shelf Division of the Continental Conservancy Group within the Office of the Interior. Anyway, this cruise out to the port of Miami today is to demonstrate a revolutionary transport system. The Zenith Intervention Prompt Piloting Emergency Response System, or ZIPPER for short, I like it, could only be powered at sea by the robust energy creation of these nuclear reactors. With the ZIPPER, the Fly should be able to simultaneously respond to any emergency situation within U.S. territorial waters, as well as any treaty-holding country in the Caribbean. Captain Stewart was again interrupted. Captain, we have 2 emergency response beacons, one from Lake Okeechobee with the other triangulated at 60 nautical miles southwest of Andros Island, announced the radio officer. Captain Stewart smirked. Good, radio headquarters, and tell them that we are suspending the training exercise to respond to this emergency. Set the ZIPPER to 800 yards east of those coordinates. But, Captain Stewart, isn't it within the Coast Guard mission to respond to lake emergencies now? One reporter asked. Yes, but the Civil Air Patrol still answers the call for search and rescue. We merely call it in." Captain Stewart was becoming impatient with the questions. "I hope you all brought your sunscreen," he continued. "Navigation Officer Craigus, prepare for the jump." Hugh Sentry began unshearing the news crews off to the bridge and down onto the deck. Two triangular antennas from side arrays began to pivot to a horizontal position. "Captain Stewart, we have primed the zipper, puller elements in place, and coordinates are set," said Navigational Officer Craigs. "Sound the alarm. It's time to zip the fly," ordered Captain Stewart. The camera crew began to hear an eerie hum as the horizontal pullers began to glow. Within seconds, the space in front of the ship began to tear. The fabric of reality was unzipping to the point where the ship would pass through. With a rumble and a flash, it was all over. The ship was floating in green, crystal-clear waters of the Grand Banks. "Sir, multiple contacts, submerged, heading towards the surface," relayed an officer. "It's an ambush," yelled Captain Stewart. There was a pop, and all the electronics went dead. "Sir, we overloaded the reactor. We're dead in the water." "But the reactors scrammed automatically," a voice yelled. "What happened?" one of the reporters asked Hugh. "I'm not sure, but there doesn't appear to be an emergency here. Probably just radio refraction from the beacon back at the lake." Hugh's words were overshadowed by the emergence of 4 submarines, 2 off the starboard bow, 2 on the port. "What the hell?" said Hugh, looking at the vessels. The submarines were ancient. They had deck guns. Deck guns that crews were now loading, according to what Hugh saw. "Everyone, get back to the ship," yelled Hugh as he unsheared the camera crews below deck. I think that word is ushered. As he ushered the camera crews below decks. After closing the hatch, he ran up to the bridge. "Captain, camera crew secured. What's our status?" asked Hugh. "Well, Officer Sentry," Stewart began, "it would seem that we've been caught with our pants down." "Don't we at least have some weapons?" asked Hugh. "Remember, Officer Sentry, we're a rescue ship. International treaties banned weapons on rescue vehicles 36 years ago," replied Captain Stewart grimly. A small boat made its way from one of the submarines. Within seconds, a small, armed crew of soldiers came on board. Without haste, they made their way to the bridge, puzzled. The door of the bridge opened. A slender man, unshaven, with an eye patch, walked into the room. "I'm Captain Slider. If you comply, you will live. If you refuse, we will blow the ship out of the water," said Captain Slider. "I hear that you have a new transport system. Someone paid us a lot of money to get it." Captain Slider's men began to round up the crew. Captain Stewart, Officer Sentry, and Navigational Officer Craigs were shuffled into the radio room. Captain Slider immediately sent crews to work on the reactors, and within 30 minutes the Fly was operating under her own power. "There's got to be a way out of this," said Hugh. "I don't see one," replied Captain Stewart. Navigation Officer Craigs was searching through the radio room and came across a tablet. "Sir, I think I have an idea. We can use this," said Craigs, waving a tablet. "What? How?" asked Hugh. "Well, Captain Stewart, Officer Sentry, this Kindle tablet is connected to our ship's Wi-Fi. With some adjusting, I can log into the zipper system and quietly set the override coordinates," replied Craigs. "I want us to be transported into dry dock at the naval shipyards in Virginia," said Captain Stewart. "We must not let them get zipper technology." Craigs went to work on the Kindle. Within 5 minutes, the override coordinates were set and enabled. Captain Stewart and Hugh sat in silence as Craigs destroyed the Kindle to prevent someone from reversing the coordinates. The safety mechanisms on the zipper were such that once the emergency override was reached, the coordinates could only be changed from the terminal they were set from. The rest of the system would act as normal until engaged. The door swung open. Captain Slide walked in. "You 3 have been too quiet. I put you in the radio room, and not one of you tried to call out. I'm embarrassed for you. I was looking forward to punishing one of you for disobedience, said Captain Slide, pulling out a revolver and pointing at Captain Stewart. Don't be foolish, Slide. You still need us to operate the drive, replied Captain Stewart. Captain Slide shrugged and pulled the trigger. Stewart slumped over in his chair. It's Captain Slide, he said, pivoting over to Hughes and Craigs. So this drive of yours, is it nuclear or... You gotta know, it's electric, replied Officer Sentry. Craigs chuckled under his breath. That's pretty good. An electric slide joke, Captain Slide said, chuckling. If you're just lucky, I have a good sense of humor. All right, you two on the bridge. Time for me to collect on the job. Using the revolver, Captain Slide moved the two men onto the bridge. They were surrounded by armed guards. At the wheel stood a man in a suit. He approached the three men. Captain Slide, I congratulate you on your stealth today. With this, we should be able to move whatever we want in and out of territorial waters, catering to the highest bidder. Officer Craigs, is it? Captain Slide has already put the new coordinates into the computer. We just need you to show us how to start the system. Officer Craigs walked up to the console, typed in his 10-digit authorization code, and pressed Enter on the keyboard. The antennas engaged. They energized. As the ship began to travel through the rift, loud explosions and metal grinding noises could be heard. The ship began to shudder. They began sinking through the floor. When everything came to a stop, the ship had re-solidified with the crew fused to the floor in multiple places on their body. Fish that were unfortunate enough to be near the ship were also fused to the hull and in various places inside the ship. The ship itself was cracked in two along what was the water line. Shock set in. No one knew how to react to the excruciating pain. It seemed like even attempts to scream were silenced. Officer Craigs removed a mouthguard, having been fused to the floor at the knees, and bit down on it to try to alleviate the pain. Within minutes, a Navy crew was assigned to survey the vessel. A team of 3 found the bridge. 2 men and 1 dolphin were fused halfway to the floor. The men were screaming silently, and the dolphin's squeals were so high in pitch that they were shattering the glass. They approached Officer Sentry, who was trying to pull himself up from the floor, which he was now permanently attached to. Ship overtaken. He was barely able to speak. Sent ship here. Sit rep, said Hugh Sentry. 2 of the soldiers were vomiting in the corners of the carnage, with the third trying to answer questions. Sir, this was never meant to be used on land. The damage to the ship is massive, with cracks and holes down the waterline, said the soldier. Hugh just shook his head, then keeled over. The soldiers left the ship to make their report. By the time they walked off the ship, Acting Chief of the Coast Guard Rescue Operations Office under the Shelf Division of the Continental Conservancy Group within the Office of the Interior had shown up to the scene. Dear God, what happened here? He asked. One of the soldiers looked up at him, frowning and shaking his head. You didn't tell them not to use this over land. In short, they unzipped the fly. I like a good pun. But this is like one of those jokes that you tell like really long about like the meteor hitting Poland, and like after 45 minutes you're like, did the meteor hit? And they say, oh, we're looking into it. Where's the crater?
Like it.
And it's, we're looking into it. Yeah. Mm.
Oh, yeah. No, I gotcha.
I will say, you certainly had to give every single person their full title the entire time.
Oh, what are you talking about? The what is it? The Acting Chief of the Coast Guard Rescue Operations Office
under the Shelf Division of the Continental Conservancy Group within the Office of the Interior. Yes.
Well, you know, nothing like a dark comedy of an unarmed ship going out encountering bad guys and then trying to save themselves, and the very thing that they do to save themselves, because they forgot one byline in the manual, literally created the USS. What was the?
The
what
Philadelphia
was the ship?
experiment. If
Yeah,
I
the
remember
Philadelphia
from the lore.
experiment.
I'm not saying it actually
Yes.
happened.
Yes, from the lore, they just basically recreated the Philadelphia experiment.
Which, if anybody's not familiar with, I think there was a movie, and I'm not sure how the movie lines up with the conspiracy theory, but I think they were trying to use high-powered magnets on a ship to try to bend radar to make a ship invisible to radar. And I think they turned it up too high, and some people say that it caused the ship to travel in time, which is a pretty cool story. But I don't even know if the story was real, because a lot of people who research it can't find evidence of it ever happening.
Yep.
So I figured anything even like it remotely like it happening. So.
Yep. And how many zipper and how many zipper jokes do we have?
Zipper puns. I feel like I'm the one being punished for picking zipper.
Well, good. Yep. What is it? The Zenith. Oh gosh, what did I even write it? It was the Zenith something or other, right? The Zenith Intervention Prompt Piloting Emergency Response System.
What does that sound like to you? Somebody tried really hard to make the acronym spell zipper. That's what it sounded like to me.
That's exactly what it sounded like to me, because I worked really hard to make that into an acronym that spelled zipper.
So what I actually did like about the story is the nautical knowledge of it really made you think that it was like a real ship. And I just kind of wonder, like, if you could, if you could zipper, why wouldn't it just be an airplane that would zipper? You'd think it would be safer for this very reason.
Well, because the Coast Guard, man, they got to keep relevant.
What about
because I mean they went from
boat plane?
Being a branch of the military. Now they are and I guess if I remember correctly, right now they are literally just a branch of the Homeland Security.
Well, they've changed a lot. They used to be under different branches all the time, but they've always been there, if I remember correctly. I think our first Navy, I could be wrong about this, that there was technically like boatmen in Boston Harbor, and some people got the idea to mount a little cannon on the end of it and then try to attack British ships, and that turned out very horribly wrong. It turned out really bad, but they've always been around, because let's face it, if you're going to have a lot of commerce, and that was has always been big for the United States, is the commerce. You need to have somebody to actually protect people in emergencies. So they've been around.
So I guess the joke is that, again, they keep getting shuffled. So now they are literally they're not just underneath a large umbrella. They're underneath a smaller umbrella that's in a slightly larger umbrella that is now under the Department of the Interior. I'm sorry, I had way too much fun.
I can tell.
Deciding that they could reclassify all of that. So, yes. So yeah, no, it was it was an interesting little system, but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it would be better for an airplane, but I mean, come on. We can't just assume that good technology is automatically going to be utilized in the correct and appropriate way every time.
I really liked the story, and it really kind of felt like you were there, and it kind of felt like it could definitely happen that way, At least in a fictional dark comedy.
Oh, yes.
What can go wrong with a ship that travels through a rift in time and space?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously nothing, right? Jeez. But no, it was a really fun little thing to write. It took me a little bit to think about zipper, and I was like, you know what? All right, you know what? It doesn't necessarily say that it has to be a physical zipper. So let's just do this and put in a whole bunch of zipper puns, like caught with our pants down, and we unzip the fly and things like that.
Yeah. As annoying as it was, I liked it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there are certain stories that I write specifically for them to be read out loud, and this is one of them.
I picked up on that, especially things that are challenging to pronounce.
Yes. That and somebody taking so much time to actually say, what is it?
You should take it up with blankety blankety blank.
Yeah. Yes, acting chief of the Coast Guard Rescue Operation. Oh gosh. Anyway, I figured I might as well be because of the fact that they keep reshuffling the Coast Guard, I figured I might as well just,
So how much energy
empathize.
output could you get from 2 Nimitz-class reactors?
Well, don't they have, if I remember correctly, I thought they had a pair of them, I want to say, on the Nimitz class.
I'll be honest, I don't know, and if I
on the
did,
Nimitz
I
class.
wouldn't talk about it.
So
on
what?
Radio. Oh, I said, I honestly don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't talk about it.
Well, I mean, I'm just talking about like what they. I mean, we're talking about like what what I've been able to find from like PBS documentaries like Carrier. Or whatever.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, that being said, I'm sure the actual number is classified. So I mean, I don't know.
Well,
but anyway,
maybe not the actual number, but the actual amount of power would be classified. Because I'm just trying to think like
the actual
ripping a hole in space. I could kind of come up with something better to do with that, like quite literally not use ships anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, hey man, again, it's something that's been reshuffled and reshuffled and reshuffled, and they're like, well, what are we gonna do? You know what? We're gonna by golly, we're gonna have our own thing. Well, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna rip space and time. Oh, okay. How'd that work
Coast
out?
Guard
Not very good.
vessel, not even for a Navy vessel. Like if you could rip a hole in time and space, and I don't know, maybe send a carrier group back in time. Kind of like that movie where I think this is the second
Final
time
Countdown?
I brought up the Final Countdown. If you're not familiar, it was I think a Navy promotional movie back in the 80s. And if it wasn't on purpose, it definitely was, where they sent, I think, the USS Nimitz back in time to 1941.
Yes.
And did they prevent Pearl Harbor, or they were able to secretly help Midway? I can't even remember the plot.
It was about Pearl Harbor, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it just in case somebody decides to watch it, because, by the way, it is on streaming services.
Oh, it's on streaming services.
Yeah, matter of fact, I actually just passed by it today as I was flipping through my stuff. And I was like, matter of fact, I almost watched it. Because I was like... Yeah, actually, I don't think that they play that tune in
Absolutely
the Final
not.
Countdown.
They did not use the tune,
because it's not
the track, The Final Countdown, in the movie The Final Countdown. So,
yeah, and I'm not gonna reveal it on afterwards. We'll talk about it, but yeah, it's Pearl Harbor, and it's just it does have imagery of like F-14 Tomcats like going toe to toe with Japanese Zeros.
But I mean, like in all seriousness, like in a cloudy condition, I mean, who would actually? I wouldn't say that the Zero would have any chance of shooting down the Tomcat, but I mean, the Tomcat, can it fly slow enough to dogfight? I mean...
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It'd have to rely on missiles.
From like a really long distance?
I mean, yeah, perhaps. I mean, but that's, it would have decently short range, like within like 2 miles. But yeah, no, it would be very interesting. I'm just gonna, but yeah, I even want to say like maybe in the movie they because they mention it, they talk about like, oh, well, they're moving really slow. Well, what's this? Well, let's go take a look. So that, the CAP, the Combat Air Patrol guys take off, and then it's just it's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's interesting and it's hilarious, and I'm gonna say it doesn't have the best ending. But go ahead and watch it.
If I remember, it was a really big groaner. But, whatever. It's kind of like playing dress-up in science fiction in the Navy. But and by the way, we didn't get paid to promote The Final Countdown, just in case anybody's wondering.
Yes. But no, so by the way, I do enjoy, going back to your story, I do enjoy how you don't mention werewolf.
I tried not to use that word.
Anywhere.
And I'll tell you the reason.
Okay. Well, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I'll be honest. About halfway through the story, I was like, "Oh, lycanthrope. Oh, yeah, werewolves. That's right. That's what I picked for you." Their
wolf.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
In case anybody's following, it's from the movie Young Frankenstein, and it's this one scene where there's a wolf howling, and that was the joke. So I said, werewolf, and then the Igor, the guy driving the carriage, says their wolf. That's the only thing I could think of when I was hearing the word werewolf in my mouth, in my head, and every time I said it, I just felt werewolf. So it's like, I'm not going to use that. So what are the lycanthrope? Okay, that's better because it's not a fictional character I'm trying to write. I'm trying to write something real. So, it's more of it was a calamara, which is either a hybrid of two animals or human and an animal, or it's actually, if I remember correctly, it's also the name of a really good Irish whiskey. I'm digressing.
Oh.
But it's really peaty. It kind of tastes like a scotch, but it's an Irish whiskey. Anyway, so I was going for like the lycanthrope thing. And then I also, just in the back of my head, I thought devil dogs. And it's like, oh, there we go. I've got a title. And this is probably the first time I came up with a title before I wrote the story. So I just kind of wanted to write a story on, what it's like. You had to pick barber as the occupation, which, is kind of part of the deal.
Oh, yeah. No, that's pretty
clever. And I was
clever.
thinking like, there's just this barber cutting this kid's hair. And I didn't really talk about this because I was going to make this thing that like every time you turn into a werewolf and you come back, like your hair is still really long from it. So like the idea.
Well, here's I hate to interrupt you, but I'm going to say, because no, like, honest to goodness, like when we're going through all the explanations and everything, and talking about like the testing and all that kind of stuff, about 3/4 of the way through the story, like dawned on me that the guy asking the questions, with the whole like, oh yeah, late night, huh? And then all this sort of stuff, I was like, oh no, he's in the program too. Like that's literally it. It's like I was thinking like he's either on base or whatever, and like that's why he's like cutting hair because like okay, all right, I get it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty friggin' clever. I really enjoyed that part of it. I was like, cool.
I was trying to, like kind of keep it under wraps. Like if you really want to talk to your, to your other Marines just to see what's going on, and that every time they turn into a werewolf, they're going to need to get a haircut the next day, you could just cut their hair. Oh, yeah. Growth industry.
Oh, yes. But yeah, no, I was really good. And I actually, I was definitely surprised. There were a couple times where I just kind of was like, again, like about halfway through, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why. So I guess like thinking, oh yeah, that's right. It was werewolves. But
and I kind of wanted it to be like, the idea is you hear somebody that's telling their story on something that they've gone through. It's what they don't tell. And I kind of liked this element of the storytelling because when you're in the first person in the actual story, you have to tell all the details. But when you're telling a story of somebody else telling a story, you're telling the parts of those stories that are really important to that person.
Yeah, all the things that stuck out.
Yeah, and then you're going to understand that character. So I really wanted Hank to be this protagonist that not necessarily people could people could sympathize with, but they could really empathize with what it's like because, in a way, there are people that go through the same thing that, when you go through a war or see combat, it changes you and you try not to let it change you, but, there's going to be things there. And talking to some of my friends, it's one of these things that you have two personalities and you kind of like leave that one there. But this is kind of a way that if you scientifically could physically remove yourself, you have no memories, you become this killing machine. I could have talked more about this, but I finished in 3 hours, actually. I was finished really fast. And I was going to go back through and I wanted to add some more details, like, what kind of vampires? What type of werewolves are these? Are these the ones you have to shoot with silver bullets to kill, or do you have to chop their heads off like the TV show Supernatural? Because there's the two types of lore on that. And I really didn't, as I was writing, that's not really relevant to the two characters. So all that I was trying to put in is they basically had some sort of superhuman powers as the monster, and they morphed, and they lost the memory of when they became the lycanthrope, and then when they came back, they still had to live with the consequences of what they did. So I don't know. Oh yeah, and then stealing Jade. The funny thing is, I thought I thought I was setting you up to use something like that, like some kind of mystical power, and you just use it as currency. I was like, okay, that's fine. And it wasn't like not even currency. I don't know. This was a really interesting way I wrote this story is I really had no idea on how I wanted to write it, and it wrote itself for me. And then when it was done, I didn't want to add anything to it. And it was a really interesting ride because...
Yeah. Well, yeah, because this is one of your first examples of experimenting with this style of writing, where you are somebody, where you're one person, like, just sharing the story. Like, I don't think any of your other stories have really been like this.
Yeah, well, it's this setting, and it was nice, and I figured I'd want to try it. But a couple other stories, I kind of felt that same way, where you just start writing, and I don't know if the muse catches you or your imagination just like fills in all of these blanks, and then it walks you, like your subconscious is walking through the story that you already have in your head, and you don't even realize it while you're writing it. But I mean, like I had these plants in the beginning that kind of tied everything up in the end, because I didn't even have, I didn't start the story thinking the barber was also going to be a Marine.
Right.
And it just kind of happened, and I said, oh, okay, so they're all part of the club, and then I'll kind of drop in, like, maybe Devil Dog is a specific kind of Marine in the future.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, it was really good. Let's see, I'm just kind of thinking. And pronunciation guides. Ugh.
I loved the pronunciation guides, because I really didn't want it to sound like it was going to be weird, so I kind of, actually, let me go back to the pronunciation guide. So, like, Zenuoid, I just Zenuid. The Zenuid. Zenuid.
Oh, don't worry.
Zenuid.
Don't know.
That's how I was trying to go with that one. And then Agramaph is how I wanted to do the acronym.
Agramaph?
Yeah. Well, Agramaph, add a schwa in there or something. Oh, Agramaph, yeah. Agramaph.
Yeah. I say I'm reading it right off the thing. That's why I was looking at it going like that. But no. Don't worry. I think I can tell you right now, I have not gotten Zenuid right at all. Zenuid.
Zen, like
Zen.
Like you've achieved Zen.
I know.
You. Eod.
Zenuid.
Zenuid. Zenuid.
Zen what?
Zen, you, E-yud. Zenuid. So you get the E-U-U in there. Zenuid.
E-U-U-U?
Exactly. That's it. Zenuid.
Okay, got it.
Because, like, it ended up becoming important, and it's just like, I'm going to make him say this word over and over again. Let me just throw in the pronunciation guide so I don't, like, annoy you with it. But apparently me being courteous is annoying. Yes,
exactly. I want my own way to try to make sense of these words.
Okay, so
it's okay. Hey, you know what? We both set out not to necessarily to annoy each other, but we both decided to throw in verbal or written roadblocks in our own special little way in this story this week.
I guess so. And that was a weird thing, because, like, I was writing the story, and I was, like, thinking to myself originally, like, if I had a werewolf, what do werewolves want to eat? And I was thinking to myself, squirrels. And, like, my original thought is that these Zenuid were actually, like, these combat squirrels that were hardened and could absorb lasers, and they had machine guns, and they were, like, 3 feet tall. It's kind of...
That'd be pretty good, though. Like, I would have enjoyed a combat squirrel war movie.
That's what I was going with, because I was trying to describe it, and then I was just like, you know what? And then when I had the description of him, like, of the Zenuids ripping up the armor, I was describing otters, and I was just like, there we go. Even better. Space weaponized otters.
Weaponized space otters. I enjoy that too, because, they are otters are mean.
They're vicious.
They are very mean.
I mean, I've been to the zoo. They're mean too. They look cute, but like cats, they're killers. Literally.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's been a fun. This was a fun one, and I get it with all the weird. I mean, listen, there have been stories where I've literally just thrown in alien words, like where I was describing aliens or future whatevers, and I just wanted to literally just see how many of these you could pronounce. So right off the bat. So I guess what I was looking for was within Devil Jogs, I was looking for the same kind of challenge, and it turns out we haven't been playing the same kind of game in that regard because you can be a pronunciation
I was just writing a story, and I knew it was going to be hard, so I wanted to help you out. Next time, I'll just type in random letters for names.
You know what? Telling you right now, go ahead and do it. It's going to be fun. I will enjoy every minute of reading that because I will know that this episode is episode 11 of Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly.
It's going to be the punishment episode.
Yes, the Jay's punishment episode. Oh no.
Except the problem is if I do that, it would be punishing the audience more than you. So
I mean, if you want to see Jay's punishment episode, remember anchor.fm/bsfrp. Go ahead and leave us a message, or you can even leave us a voice message and tell us whether or not you want to see Jay's punishment episode where Dick replaces every single name with a random series of consonants just to make me pronounce them. So,
so is it going to be like Finnish? I shouldn't make fun of the Finnish language, but it has a lot of consonances.
Well, I was literally thinking only consonants.
Oh.
So I can.
Well, that's not fun. You got to throw in like 3 vowels in there.
Oh yeah, and what is it? And then in such an order that would actually make them look ambiguous, like you're not really sure how, like what.
Oh yeah.
Form of the vowel they're supposed to be.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Or if you have a completely different idea for an episode, maybe something involving your favorite genre of science fiction, maybe your favorite author, maybe a book you've read that has an interesting plot twist that you want us to... Not fan fiction. We don't do fan fiction. But if you have an idea of like a subject matter from a book or something like that, just go ahead, leave us either a voice message and we'll play it on the air, or you can leave us a written message and we'll read it on the air.
Absolutely. Well, Dick, I gotta be honest. I'm kind of talked out here. I think we've covered some good points about each other's stories, and thank you for writing it. Even if I totally decided to poo-poo your pronunciation guide, I appreciate the effort.
And I really did like the detail that you put into your story. It really had a feeling that you're really there, and of course, it had to end with giant pun. But I guess that's the dark humor.
Well, that and people literally being fused into the ship.
All right.
This brand new ship, this brand new like $1 billion ship they've just destroyed in like an afternoon.
Well,
anyway.
I guess we will see you all next week.
Absolutely.
I am Dick.
And I'm Jay.
And this was Bad Science Fiction Read Poorly.
Good night, everyone.